Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, where we discuss all of the news in the world of soccer. As always, my name is Ben Brown, and we are ready and we are loaded for another action-packed show for you today. We are in the studio again, as I mentioned, and we have the return of the UEFA Champions League, something I have been looking forward to ever since the competition went into the round of 16 in December. So it's been a couple of months off, but we are back talking about the Champions League, and we have games tomorrow on Tuesday and Wednesday. We have 4 matchups, and then next week we will have the next 4 matchups. 2 weeks after that, we have the reverse fixtures in the round of 16. So we are rampant, and we are ready to talk all things Champions League football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into it. We have 2 games tomorrow on Valentine's Day on Tuesday, and then 2 games on Wednesday. I say the 2 games on Wednesday probably have more headlines, more compelling storylines, but nevertheless, let's just talk about it right now. So on Tuesday, we have Paris Saint-Germain against Barcelona. We have Benfica against Dortmund. On Wednesday, we have Real Madrid against Napoli. And we have Bayern Munich against Arsenal. So let's break down each of these games. Let's talk about the games first off on Tuesday. We have PSG against Barcelona. Barcelona are the group winners. PSG did come second in Group A. So the first matchup here is going to be in France. The reverse fixture, which is scheduled for March 8th, will be, of course, in Spain. So that gives the group winners really the advantage in these matchups, because the first matchup here, the first leg, is going to be played on the road for those teams. So if they can return back home in the second fixture with a lead, possibly an away goal or 2, it makes a huge difference, because remember, the tiebreaker in the Champions League, say the game ends 2-2 in the second leg, whichever team has the most away goals will obviously advance. If neither team has an away goal, or if it's the same, then they go to extra time, penalties if need be. So the away goals are very, very crucial and very important. That's why playing the first fixture on the road is really, really crucial, because you obviously have the advantage of knowing where you sit with away goals and a lead going back home, where, of course, you're most likely going to have the advantage because you're at your home stadium in your home country. So it's really, really important. Let's first talk about PSG against Barcelona. This is a rematch of 2 years ago in the knockout stage, where Barcelona absolutely trounced the French league champions. David Luiz will have some nightmare memories of Luis Suarez nutmegging him twice, but he has since turned over to Chelsea, so he, of course, does not have to worry about that. But people like Marquinhos and Thiago Silva will have to worry about that front three of Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and Neymar, who, of course, the front three of that in Barcelona is the best in the world. So they're going to have a tough go of things at it right now. Paris Saint-Germain are playing a lot better in the French league. We'll update the tables in a minute in the second segment. So they're doing a lot better, but I'd say this is probably the weakest team we've seen from PSG within the last few years. And Barcelona are just as good as they've ever been, although they've been kind of disappointing this year as far as La Liga standards are concerned. They're playing really well in the Champions League. Lionel Messi's been fantastic, and I would expect that to continue. For PSG, they're at home here. They're going to need a really, really big result, because going in to the Camp Nou in Barcelona in Spain is going to be very, very tough to do and get away with a good result there. So they're going to need, in my opinion, at least in the first leg here, to at least have a 1 to 2 goal advantage. And it's really important that they don't give up more than 1 away goal. Because if they give up 2 away goals, it's going to be really, really tough to come back from that, let alone even score against Barcelona. They've been capable of getting opened up. We've seen in La Liga, they're currently second by 1 point, but they are 2 games really behind Real Madrid because Barcelona played 22 games, Real Madrid have 20 games. So it could be a 7-point gap if Real do win those 2 games. So they are kind of faulting back here. But they're playing really well as of late. They beat Alaves on the weekend 6-0. So I would imagine that if PSG want to have a good go of things here in the first leg, they're going to have to play really well and really, in my opinion, I'd say strike on the counterattack. I think I would expect them to kind of sit back. They have some good defensive midfielders you can lean on. You do have Marco Verratti, you have Blaise Matuidi, whether they run with Gregor Skrikowiak or they have Thiago Motta somewhere in the midfield. I would expect more deep-lying midfielders and to kind of strike on the counterattack because remember, they do have Edinson Cavani, who without Zlatan Ibrahimovic is really, really succeeding in that center forward role. He has the most goals in all of Europe throughout this season, although he doesn't have the greatest conversion rate. So they do have capable players, obviously Angel Di Maria. Julian Draxler's been a fantastic winter signing coming over from Wolfsburg. So they have a lot of firepower. I would expect them to play on the counter, though, and give up a lot of possession to Barcelona because you can't allow Barcelona to play an open style of game because they're going to kill you. They have that front three up front with a lot of pace, good passing abilities. You have the midfield with Iniesta and Rakitic. So they're going to have to play on the counter in my eyes. The Barcelona, one thing they might have to worry about is they're going to be without right back Alex Vidal. He went down on Alaves on Saturday. He has a broken ankle. He's out for about 5 months. So you probably have to insert Sergi Roberto, who's played good this season at right back, but is really a midfielder by trade. So he's not the best defensive guy. So you look out on that left wing. They've been using Julian Draxler recently. Perhaps you could maybe have a little switch with Angel Di Maria. He has some more pace than does the German. So they will probably look to attack the right side of Barcelona's defense. Whoever's on that left wing, the left midfield position, could really work against Roberto, who's more of a midfielder than a right back. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but I'll give the edge to Barcelona. The other game on Tuesday is Benfica. They will be in Portugal hosting Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, Dortmund, the winners of their group in the Champions League over Real Madrid, so they did really well there. But in the Bundesliga, they're kind of faltering. We'll talk about them later in the Bundesliga update. But they're kind of faltering. They had a loss on the weekend, 2-1, and they're just kind of going through the motions right now. They've been kind of like two opposite teams in the league and in the Champions League. They're going to, of course, have the advantage here against Benfica. This was probably one of the easier draws that Dortmund could have gotten. They're, of course, going to be at home in the second leg in Germany, so they're going to Portugal here. I'd give them the edge. Anytime you have the capable players they have of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Marco Reus, Ousmane Dembele has been absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love the kid. I can't say anything more about him. So they have a lot of capable players for Dortmund, and they're just simply a better team than Benfica. So I think Dortmund will really try to press them and really put the pressure on Benfica, force them into some mistakes. They have a lot of pace up front with Aubameyang. He's probably the fastest player in all of Europe. And you have Marco Reus, who's capable of making magic, as well as some of the other players in the midfield. So I'd imagine Dortmund will try to really press them high and win a lot of possession in their own half and look to really punish Benfica because they have the advantage. If they get a couple of away goals, you know what that does for them returning back to Germany. So I'll give the edge to Dortmund here. I think Benfica are going to really need to really play a good defensive game and try to just take their opportunities as they can. We'll have to wait and see how things go. Of course, next week we'll update you on these results as well as preview the next set of fixtures. So that takes us to Wednesday. I'd say Wednesday is the most compelling games of any games here in the Champions League in the round of 16. We have two great matchups in my eyes. You have Real Madrid, who are the defending champions and leaders of La Liga. And then you have Napoli. We've seen what Napoli have done the last couple of weeks. They've been absolutely on fire. Last week they won 7-1 in Serie A. Dries Mertens is playing fantastic as that center striker role. And then you have Real Madrid, who are of course the defending champions and are playing fantastic. The other matchup is you have Bayern Munich against Arsenal. 4 out of the last 5 years, these two teams have met in the Champions League, whether it be in the round of 16 or in the group stage. So they're definitely really familiar with each other. Let's talk first about Real Madrid and Napoli. The game is going to be in Spain at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium where Real Madrid play, because Napoli were the group winners and Real Madrid did come second in their group behind Borussia Dortmund. So technically Napoli have the edge here because they will be playing the second leg in Italy. This is a really, really interesting game here. Of course, you're going to look at it and say, oh, Real Madrid, hands down. For me, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that at all. Napoli's striking and offensive game is fantastic. I mentioned Dries Mertens. You also have Lorenzo Insigne. Marek Hamšík is a very fantastic midfielder. Jose Callejon on the right side of the pitch there. He's from Spain, so he's going to have some added edge going back to his home country. This game could go a lot of different ways. Napoli are really, really good going forward, and they have a lot of pace up front. They could really aim to strike on the counter here, and that's what I think they'll do. For Real Madrid, you have a lot of people playing sort of out of position right now. Gareth Bale did return to training, but he's not going to be ready for this game. He just started practicing yesterday. So hoping that he'll be back for the second leg in March 7th, but he won't be playing here. So you have some guys playing out of position, and then you don't really have, I'd say, as strong of an attacking presence as you've normally seen with Real Madrid. Of course, you have Cristiano Ronaldo, who's capable of magic at all times. Karim Benzema has been good in the Champions League as of late, but he just hasn't really had it this year. So you have some question marks. Do you go with Morata up there? Do you go with Karim Benzema? On the right side of the pitch, do you go with someone like maybe Lucas? Do you maybe throw a Isco in there, James Rodriguez? They have a lot of question marks right now. The midfield is, of course, intact. Casemiro, you have Luka Modric, and Toni Kroos. That's absolutely phenomenal. And then you have the center back pairing with whoever Sergio Ramos goes with. He's always capable of magic, seems to score in the 90th minute. And then you have the fullbacks of Marcelo, and you have Dani Carvajal. So that's fantastic. But you have maybe that right side of the field a little in question, and maybe a little bit up front as well. Napoli, who are fantastic at playing on the break and really countering you and punishing you because that front three is really good. In particular, Dries Mertens, who's moved from basically a winger to a striker because of injuries, and he's absolutely ran away with the position. He's been phenomenal. Napoli's best player by far this season. So you could have some interesting matchups there. I think if Napoli can return back to Italy, maybe with an away goal for sure, but maybe if it's even like a 2-1 result where they're only down by 1, they got that away goal, so they go back to Italy, win 1-0, then they of course have the edge. It could be kind of interesting to see. I think Napoli at least score in this game. I'll give Real Madrid the edge here, but Napoli, if they can keep it close, that's all they need. All they need is a chance going back to Italy. I'm going to say similar things about Arsenal in this first game against Bayern Munich here. The game is at the Allianz Arena in Germany, in Munich. I'd give the edge to to Bayern Munich. Obviously, it's Bayern. It's one of the best teams in the world. But you know what? This is not the same Bayern Munich team we've seen of seasons past. I'd say 2 years ago, even 3 years ago. They're still kind of molding to Carlo Ancelotti's mindset and his tactics, and they're not really playing as good as we've seen them the last few years. Thomas Muller's having arguably his worst season as a professional footballer. Robert Lewandowski is fantastic up there. You're not going to have Frank Ribery in this game, so I think you'll have a combination of Douglas Costa and Arjen Robben on the wings. So depending on where they play and where they position themselves, that could be kind of interesting. You have the midfield. You're probably going to see Thiago in there. You're going to, of course, see Arturo Vidal, probably Xabi Alonso, the legend, although he's at an old age. He's still absolutely fantastic. And then where Bayern really succeed is on that back line. David Alaba, you have Jerome Boateng, you have Mats Hummels, and you have Philipp Lahm behind Manuel Neuer, or in front of Manuel Neuer, I should say. So you have a fantastic back line. Bayern should probably control a lot of the game. I think Arsenal will basically give up a lot of possession, knowing how good Bayern are going forward and the pace they're going to have on the wings, probably with Robben and Douglas Costa. They met last year in the group stage. Bayern thrashed them in Germany, and Arsenal won 2-0 in England. Knowing that, I think Arsenal will give up a lot of possession. These two teams are very familiar with each other. As I mentioned, they played 4 of the last 5 years in the Champions League. So they know what each team is going to do. I think Arsenal give up a lot of possession, try to strike on the counter with people like Alexis Sanchez. Of course, Mesut Ozil is going to have an added impact going back to Germany, as well as Shkodran Mustafi at center back. So they might get up for this game because they're playing a lot of their German international teammates. And maybe even some rumors about maybe Mesut Ozil going back to Germany to finish his career. Michael Ballack said that if he were him, he'd go to Germany and win some titles because that's where they are, at Bayern Munich. So there might be a little added momentum going back to Germany for Mesut Ozil and Shkodran Mustafi. But I expect Bayern Munich to win this game. For Arsenal, they have to just do what I said about Napoli and Real Madrid. They have to just keep it close because they're going back to England. If they go back to England with a 2-1 loss, that's not a bad situation because they got that away goal. And we saw what they did last year against Bayern in England. They won 2-0. So they're capable of beating this team. And Bayern aren't the same team we've seen the last few years. So Arsenal are a capable squad. I think it all comes down to a proper mentality. Because with Arsenal, you really don't know what to expect. They'll play fantastic one week against a top club, and then they'll really blunder it against a team like Watford, who they lost against last week in the middle of the week. So you really don't know what to expect with Arsenal. You could put up a great performance here, or they could just really have a shocking performance. You don't know what to expect. But I think if they can keep it close, only go down to Germany here and lose by 1 goal. If they can get an away goal, it's really proper and really, really big. If they lose 1-0, I'd say it kind of puts them in a bad situation because Bayern are obviously really good going forward and their attacking presence is there. But they have not been as good as they have been lately. And Arsenal are probably in the best situation to advance against Bayern than they have been in the past. So we'll see what happens. Of course, next week we have Bayer Leverkusen against Atletico Madrid. We have Manchester City against Monaco. We have Porto against Juventus, and we have Sevilla against Leicester City. So we'll preview those games next week as well as recap these games here in the Champions League. But we'll take our first break of the show. After the break, we're going to talk about a league review from this weekend. Some good results over in England. Leicester not doing too well. The champions faltering yesterday again to Swansea, their 5th loss in a row. Are they in a relegation battle? As well as some other clubs in England. And we'll talk about everything else in the world. League One, La Liga, Bundesliga, you name it. We got you covered here at the Golden State Media Concept Soccer Podcast. We'll take our break and we'll be right back here at the show.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thank you for returning to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. We'll do our week in review. We're going to start off here with the Premier League on Saturday morning. Arsenal get a 2-0 victory over Hull City. A couple of goals in there for Alexis Sanchez. They return to their winning ways after they lost both their games last week to Chelsea and to Watford. Stoke City get a goal from Joe Allen to beat Crystal Palace 1-0. Manchester United now 16 games unbeaten in the Premier League with a 2-0 victory over Watford. Middlesbrough and Everton played to a 0-0 draw. West Ham and West Brom, some late heroics from Johnny Evans' rescue, a point away from the Olympic Stadium for West Brom. They tie with West Ham 2-2. Southampton absolutely thrash Sunderland 4-0. Manolo Gabbiadini with 2 goals for Southampton, the international player from Italy, coming over in the transfer window in January for Southampton and playing really well. And I mentioned Liverpool. Liverpool and Tottenham, the big game last week. I talked about that in the Premier League. And Liverpool stood the test. They get their first win of 2017. Crazy to think that Liverpool, who have been so good this year in the Premier League, did not win a game in January. They get their first win in all competitions of 2017 with a 2-0 victory over Tottenham. Sadio Mane coming back from the AFCON with Senegal and gets a goal in the 16th minute and the 18th minute to get a 2-0 victory for Liverpool. Tottenham now really kind of taking themselves out of the title race. On Sunday, Burnley get a draw with Chelsea, actually. So Chelsea do not win at Turf Moor. Burnley get a 1-1 draw with the league leaders. I mentioned Leicester City. Swansea beat them 2-0 yesterday. Leicester now 5 losses in a row in the Premier League. Just absolutely playing terrible. I mean, Claudio Ranieri said after the game, and he put it really simple. He said, "We're not scoring goals and we're conceding them. That's our problem." And he put it in simple terms. So, I mean, there's obviously more than that, but, I mean, quite honestly, that's the case right now. They're just not playing well. Jamie Vardy hasn't had a shot on target this whole entire year. He's not back to the player he was last year. Riyad Mahrez is really getting noticed, and he's getting kind of shut down. And in the midfield, they lost N'Golo Kante, who you could argue is the player of the year right now for Chelsea, and he's having an amazing impact on that squad. So you lose a player like that, and it's definitely tough. I mean, they had their dream season last year. It's really hard to replicate that again, and they're really showing the effects right now. And then today, obviously, we have Monday Night Football over in England. Bournemouth will be playing Manchester City in about 3 hours from now. Interested to see if Gabriel Jesus can continue his impressive form that he's shown for City. 2 starts now, he's got 3 goals and an assist. He's really pushed Sergio Aguero to the bench. When you look at a player like Aguero, who I'd say he's probably the best striker in the Premier League, you push him to the bench. I mean, that really says a lot about the way you're playing and how much of an impact you're making on the squad. So Pep Guardiola, interested to see what he does with both of those strikers there. Obviously, Jesus only at 19. He's, of course, the future. And Sergio Aguero's not old, but, I mean, he's still really capable. And if he keeps getting pushed to the bench, he's probably going to want to leave during summertime. And there's a lot of speculation and rumors already surfacing about that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens today. Bournemouth and Manchester City will be kicking off in about 3 hours. So you look at the Premier League table, Manchester United continue to stay in 6th place. Over 3 months now, they've been in 6th, even with the victory. So Chelsea, with the draw, have a 10-point lead atop the league now. Tottenham and Arsenal are joint second with 50 points, although Tottenham do have a better goal differential than their North London rivals. Liverpool sit 4th with 49 points. Manchester City in 5th with 49 points and a game in hand. So if they win today, they will go 2nd. They do have, a tough matchup on Bournemouth. We've seen Bournemouth, who are 14th in the league, we've seen them get a 3-3 draw against Arsenal, get a 4-3 win against Liverpool. So they do have some talent there, and they will obviously be trying to really push Manchester City there. As I mentioned, United are in 6th with 48 points. And then there's a big drop there. In 7th is Everton with 41. So they're 7 points back of Manchester United alone. But it's getting really interesting and really tough for positions 2, 3, and 4. Honestly, I think the league is over. I think Chelsea are head and shoulders by far the best team in the league. They've only given up 18 goals, which is joint best with Tottenham. And I really don't see anyone catching them. I seriously don't. They got a draw against Burnley, so technically Arsenal and Liverpool and United did catch up by them on 2 points. Antonio Conte is still saying there's 6 teams that can win the league, so he's considering Manchester United as well. I mean, technically they're only 12 points back, but it's just a really big gap. I don't see anyone really catching Chelsea. But the race for the top 4 in the Premier League is what everyone's going to be looking at, as well as the relegation battle. As far as the top 4, I mean, you have Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Manchester United. You have 5 teams separated by 2 points. Really interested to see what happens. I think United are probably in the best form right now. As I mentioned, 16 games unbeaten, but they also have 9 draws, which is the second most in the league, only behind Middlesbrough with 10. So they're not getting a whole lot of wins. They're dropping a lot of points with the draws there. It was good to see them get the win 2-0 against Watford on Saturday. But they're in the best form right now, and I think they're really in a good situation. It's just a matter of how these other teams perform. Liverpool, really shaky, but they had a great performance against Tottenham at Anfield on Saturday. Arsenal are always up and down, and Manchester City kind of the same up and down as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. But now you look at the bottom of the table. You have Sunderland with 19. You have Crystal Palace with 19. You have Hull City with 20. That's 18, 19, and 20. But then you have some other teams. You have Leicester, 21 points. And you have Middlesbrough, 22 points. Swansea with the win against Leicester, kind of distancing themselves a little bit. They're at 24 points, so they're 4 points away from getting relegated right now. They're in a decent situation. Of course, the risk is still there. But Paul Clement, since coming in January, has been absolutely phenomenal with Swansea. And he's really got them playing really good. In particular, Gylfi Sigurdsson. He's been by far their standout performer, and he's kind of flown under the radar as one of the best players in the Premier League this year. If you account for goals and assists, he's got more than people like Dele Alli from Tottenham, Eden Hazard from Chelsea, and Sadio Mane from Liverpool. So he's not even getting talked about, but he's having quietly a very, very good season, Gylfi Sigurdsson. So I think Swansea are in an okay situation. The team that you have to worry about is Leicester. They've lost 5 in a row now. They're still capable with Mahrez and Vardy, but they're just not a good team, and they're really showing effects. They're also playing in Europe. They're also in the Champions League against Sevilla, although I do think they'll get bounced. That's 2 more added games they have to look at. They're still in the FA Cup as well. So I think Sunderland and Crystal Palace are by far getting relegated for sure. Hull City are playing better under Marco Silva, and we'll have to see what Leicester and Middlesbrough can do. I think Swansea's going to be okay, though. So let's look at the Bundesliga next. So the Bundesliga, on Friday, Mainz pick up a 2-0 victory over Augsburg. On Saturday, Darmstadt surprisingly do beat Borussia Dortmund. Coming off their win against RB Leipzig, Dortmund fall to Darmstadt 2-1. Bayer Leverkusen with a 3-0 victory over Eintracht. RB Leipzig lose their second game in a row against Hamburg 3-0. Bayern Munich go all the way to the 90th minute to get a 2-0 victory over Ingolstadt. Goals from Arturo Vidal and Arjen Robben, both in the 90th minute to rescue 3 points for Bayern Munich, who are facing a 0-0 draw right in their face against Ingolstadt, who, they're 17th in the league, which is second lowest. And then you have Dortmund losing to Darmstadt, which is the lowest, in the 18th position with only 12 points, only their third win of the season for Darmstadt. So some of the elites in Germany not really playing well, although Bayern Munich do pick up the 3 points. Borussia Mönchengladbach defeat Werder Bremen 1-0. Schalke defeat Hertha Berlin 2-0. Hoffenheim suffer their second consecutive loss, only their second loss in all of the league this season, after they lose on Sunday to Wolfsburg 2-1. Then you have Freiburg defeating FC Cologne 2-1 as well. So you look at the Bundesliga table, the big winners here are Bayern Munich. They stretch their lead over RB Leipzig to 7 points now. They have a 14-point lead over Eintracht. It's literally just a 2-horse race here between Leipzig and Munich. And RB Leipzig, they're having a fantastic dream season, but they're really showing the effects, and they're really wearing down now. This league, in my opinion, is over. Bayern have got it won here. There's still a lot of games left, 16 to play. But Bayern Munich are in a really good situation. They have a 7-point lead over Leipzig, a 14-point lead over Eintracht, and a 15-point lead over Borussia Dortmund. Yes, Borussia Dortmund in 4th with 34 points. Hoffenheim are 5th with 34 points as well. Hertha Berlin are 6th with 33 points. FC Cologne in 7th with 32 points. So between 3 to 7, you only have a 3-point differential there. So it's going to be interesting, kind of like the Premier League. I think the league is over, but the battle for the top 4, the top 3, could get really, really interesting here in Germany. You look at the bottom of the table, you have Darmstadt with 12, you have Ingolstadt with 15, you have Werder Bremen with 16, and you have Hamburg with 19. So a little bit of not as many teams battling there as we are in England at the bottom of the table to get relegated. But I think Darmstadt and Ingolstadt are in really bad spots to get relegated. Werder only 1 point away from relegation as well with Ingolstadt. So now we look over to Serie A. Serie A on Wednesday, we had Juventus pick up a 2-0 victory over Crotone, and AC Milan pick up a 1-0 victory over Bologna. On Friday, Napoli pick up a 2-0 victory over Genoa. On Saturday, Fiorentina pick up a 3-0 victory over Udinese. On Sunday, Roma pick up a 2-0 win over Crotone, goals from Radjet Nainggolan as well as Edin Dzeko. Atalanta pick up a 3-1 victory over Palermo. Torino pick up a 5-3 victory over Pescara. They were up 5-0 at this point as well, but then Pescara get 3 goals to kind of make it interesting late, although Torino were in full effect the whole way through. Chievo pick up a 3-1 victory over Sassuolo. Inter returned to their winning ways after their loss to Juve last week and beat Empoli 2-0. Sampdoria win 3-1 over Bologna. And then yesterday, Juventus pick up a 2-0 victory over Cagliari. Gonzalo Higuain scoring in that game. He has 17 goals now in the league, continuing to impress last year at Napoli, this year at Juventus. And then on Monday, which is today, we have a good matchup really in Serie A. Lazio against Milan, 2 of the top teams within the league. Lazio in 6th, Milan in 8th. So you look at the Serie A table, Roma 7 points behind Juventus now, 60 for Juve and 53 for Roma. Napoli in 3rd with 51 points. Inter in 4th with 45, as well as Atalanta in 5th with 45. You have Lazio 6th with 43. You have Fiorentina and AC Milan 7th and 8th, both with 40 points. So Juventus really opening up the gap here against Roma. It's really their league to lose. It's crazy to think that Juve don't have any draws in the league. They have 20 wins and 4 losses. So they're not drawing any games, and their defensive record has been phenomenal. They've only given up 16 goals, which is 5 fewer than any other team in the league. So not only are they scoring goals, but they're not giving any up as well. And they really are looking like they're running away with it here. You look at the bottom of the table, Pescara have 9 points, only 1 win so far in the league. You have Crotone with 13 points. You have Palermo with 14 points. Then you have a big gap there between 17 and 18. Empoli with 22. So they're 8 points clear of safety right now. You have to imagine Palermo, Crotone, as well as Pescara are in really, really bad spots to get relegated. And you have to imagine they're probably going to be the teams that will be getting relegated. Now let's transfer over to La Liga. On Friday, Real Sociedad pick up a 2-1 victory over Espanyol. On Saturday, Betis and Valencia play to a 0-0 draw. On Saturday, Barcelona pick up a 6-0 victory over Alaves. They scored 4 goals in 8 minutes. As I mentioned, the one bad here for Barcelona is Alex Vidal, who's been playing really good at right back. He did get stretched off the field, and he has a broken ankle. He's going to be out for about 5 months. So you probably insert Sergio Roberto there. Have to see how he can transition from midfield over to right back. Let's go Bilbao pick up a 2-1 victory over Deportivo. Real Madrid with a 3-1 victory over Osasuna. On Sunday, Malaga and Villarreal played to a 1-1 draw. Sporting Gijón beat Leganes 2-0. Sevilla win 1-0 over Las Palmas. They go back to their winning ways as well. And then as well as yesterday, Atletico Madrid pick up a 3-2 victory over Celta Vigo, but they had to get 2 goals late from Yannick Carrasco and Antoine Griezmann in the 86th and 88th minute to get all 3 points for Celta Vigo. They were looking at another loss. Atletico not really playing that well this season. Today we have Eibar against Granada as well to end match day 22 in Spain. So you look at the table, Real Madrid have 2 games in hand, yet they still have a 1-point lead over Barca atop La Liga, 49 points for them, Barcelona 48. Sevilla have 46 points, they're playing as well, really, really good. They returned their winning ways after they suffered a little bit of a slip last couple of weeks. Atletico Madrid are 4th with 42 points. You have Real Sociedad 5th with 41 points. And you have a big drop-off there, a 5-point differential between 6th for for Villarreal and Real Sociedad there. So look at the bottom of the table. Osasuna have 10 points. Granada have 13 points. Sporting Gijón have 16 points. Leganes in 17th with 18 points. Deportivo in 6th with 19 points. Valencia in 15th with 20 points. And then Malaga in 14th with 23 points. So there's not a huge gap there. I mean, you have Sporting in 16th, then you have Valencia in 20th, so a 4-point differential there with a few teams in between. So it's still kind of close as far as teams getting relegated. We'll have to wait and see what happens in Spain. We're turning over to the French League, Ligue 1. Before our quick commercial break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, we're going pretty long in the show, which is always great. So PSG pick up a 3-0 victory over Bordeaux. A couple of goals there for Edinson Cavani and 1 for Angel Di Maria. Genk pick up a 2-1 victory over Lyon. Toulouse defeat Bastia 4-1. Dijon defeat Caen 2-0. Anders pick up a 2-1 victory over Lille. Montpellier defeat Nancy-Lorraine 3-0. Monaco, again, the top scorers in all of Europe, continue to thrash teams and open them up. They beat Metz 5-0. A couple of goals there for Radamel Falcao. So Saint Etienne pick up a 4-0 victory over Lorient. Rennes and Nice play to a 2-2 draw. And then Nantes defeat Marseille 3-2. Really, really surprising result there in Ligue 1. So you look at the top of the table. Monaco, 75 goals they've scored this year. They are tops in French League with 58 points. PSG just right behind them with 55. You have Nice, who were playing really well, but they continue to get a lot of draws. They have 8 so far in the league, which is second. They have 53 points. You have Lyon with a huge gap there between 3 and 4. It's a 13-point differential for Lyon with 40 points. So really, it's going to be one of these top 3 teams winning the French league. Lyon have no chance. Saint Etienne are 5th with 39 points. Marseille in 6th with 36. Bordeaux in 7th with 36 as well. Genk in 8th with 34. Then you have a couple of teams, Toulouse and Rennes, with 33. Look at the bottom of the table. Lorient with 22. Bastia with 22. You have Caen with 25. You have Lille with 26. And you have 4 teams there with 27 between Dijon, Angers, Nancy-Lorraine, and Metz. So it's still getting kind of close there. Only 4 teams are kind of ahead of that relegation zone by 2 points. So it's going to get interesting going down the stretch here in Ligue 1. But at the top, it's either going to be Monaco, PSG, or Nice. I really think it's either going to be Monaco or PSG. Nice are playing good. They don't give up a whole lot of goals. They've only given up 20, which is 3rd in the league. but they just don't really get a whole lot of goals going forward. Only 41, which is behind some of the teams even below them. So I really do believe it's either going to be Monaco or PSG. PSG are better, but with how many goals Monaco score, their attacking presence is fantastic. You have Kylian Mbappé, who had a hat trick as well in this game. I mean, he's phenomenal, only at 18 years old. He's one for the future, getting compared to Thierry Henry already. I mean, it seems like wherever people go to Monaco, they just find a way to score goals. And they're just playing really, really good. So it's going to be hard to really top them because of how many goals they score. They're just so good going forward. 75 goals. I mean, that's 25 more than any other team in the league, which is PSG at second. So they're phenomenal. And their defense is not bad either. They've only given up 23. So we'll take our second break of the show. After the break, we're going to look ahead to this week in football and soccer. All the top matchups in the top leagues here at the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. Don't you guys go anywhere.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. I really do appreciate it. We got just one more segment to go here, and then we'll be taking a week break, a week hiatus away from the show. The Premier League is on the FA Cup this week, so League Cup action. They're in the round of 16. Although, get this. So in the round of 16, we have 8 Premier League teams against 8 non-Premier League teams, and none of the 8 Premier League teams are matching up with each other. It's a Premier League team against a non-Premier League team in all 8 matchups. So kind of interesting there to see what happens. Of course, within the quarterfinals, we could have 8 Premier League teams. We could have a couple of teams mixed in there. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but we will not talk about the Premier League because they're going to be on a 2-week break. So there's no point in updating you on something 2 weeks from now because we're not going to remember these matchups. So we'll switch over to first talk about the Bundesliga. On Friday, FC Augsburg will take on Bayer Leverkusen. On Saturday, Mainz will take on Werder Bremen. Hoffenheim will battle bottom of the table Darmstadt. Eintracht will be battling Ingolstadt. Hertha Berlin will take on Bayern Munich. Have to see how Bayern do. Kind of struggling here. They struggled against Ingolstadt. They picked up a 2-0 victory, and they will be playing off against Arsenal in the middle of the week here. So have to see if they have a little tiredness, and maybe needing a little bit of a break here against Hertha Berlin, who are a pretty good side. Darmstadt will be battling Wolfsburg, trying to return to their winning ways to Borussia Dortmund. Hamburg will take on FC Freiburg, and on Sunday, Borussia Mönchengladbach will take on RB Leipzig. If Leipzig want to have any chance of keeping it close in the Bundesliga, they have to find a way to defeat Borussia Mönchengladbach here. RB Leipzig, 2 consecutive losses now in the league. And then FC Cologne will be taking on Schalke on Sunday as well. In Serie A on Friday, Juventus will be battling against bottom Palermo. On Saturday, Atalanta will take on Crotone. Empoli will battle Lazio. On Sunday, Bologna will battle Inter Milan. Udinese will take on Sassuolo. Chievo will take on Napoli. Pescara will battle against Genoa. Sampdoria will take on Cagliari. Roma and Torino will battle. That'll be a pretty good matchup, I think. And then AC Milan and Fiorentina. In La Liga on Friday, Granada will battle Real Betis. On Saturday, Sporting Gijón will take on Atletico Madrid. Real Madrid will take on Espanyol. Deportivo will take on Alaves. Sevilla try to continue and try to really push. They're third right now in the league. They'll take on Eibar. On Sunday, Real Sociedad will battle Villarreal. Valencia will take on Atletico Bilbao. Celta Vigo will battle against Osasuna. And Barcelona will battle against Leganes. And then on Monday, we have Malaga against Las Palmas. In the French League on Friday, Monaco and their 75 goals. Yes, 75 goals. Will take on Bastia. On Saturday, Marseille will battle Rennes. Metz will take off against Nantes. Lorient will battle Nice. Caen will battle Lille. Angers will battle Nancy Lorraine. On Sunday, PSG will take on Toulouse. Montpellier will take on Saint-Étienne. Lyon will battle against Dijon. And Bordeaux will battle off against Genk. So that's going to be it for us here today in the show. Again, I'd like to thank you guys for listening so much. I really do appreciate it. Yet again, another action-packed, fun show for you. Next week, we'll talk about pretty much the same stuff. Champions League, scores, games, headlines, top performers, anything that comes up in the world of soccer. We, of course, have you covered here at the Golden State Media Concept Soccer Podcast. I'd like to thank you guys for listening. My name is Ben Brown. Have a good day. Have a good week. And we will see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.